Welcome to this week's episode of Forgiving the Girl Inside. Today we have a special guest with a wonderful, powerful, impactful healing journey from narcissist control to complete freedom. You definitely want to stay tuned for this entire story, and please share it with anyone that you know can benefit from this. In the description box, there'll be a link to connect with our beautiful guest, Callie Brown, who is going to be sharing the intimate details of this healing journey with all of you. So thanks for joining. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified of the next interview, which debuts every Tuesday. I'm your host, Lisa Drennan, the Energetic Mindset Mentor, and my information to connect with me is also in the description. Thanks for joining us, and thank you so much, Callie. I'm so honored to have you here sharing your journey. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a single mom to 3 amazing boys. I've previously had 4 miscarriages before my oldest was born. So there was a time I didn't think I'd become a mom. My earliest memory, when people would ask, little kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would always say, I want to be a mom. So having to go through those miscarriages definitely affected that dream, and I didn't think it would come true. But then I got blessed with 3 boys, and they're my whole life. I focus on them. Everything I do is for them.
Yeah, boys are wonderful. I have 2 boys. How old are your boys?
They are almost 14, almost 12, and 10.
The tweens and teen years.
Yes, my oldest will be in high school next year, and I'm so not ready for it.
It's a fun time. My youngest is 23, so I remember I felt like I was in the teen years forever because my oldest is 35, and then I have a daughter who's 27, and it's like, are these teen years ever going to end?
Right.
So, yeah. So tell us about this narcissist. So there's the narcissist tendencies and the narcissist actual diagnosis. Which one did you deal with?
Considering I could never get him to agree to go to therapy, he hasn't been formally diagnosed. I wasn't even aware that he was a narcissist till after I left him and had started seeking therapy myself to work on me. And when I was describing what I was going through and what he would say to me, the very first therapist I saw said, "Wow, that sounds like a textbook narcissist." I'm like, "What's that?" I'd never heard it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had started researching it on my own, and I know Dr. Romney on YouTube, she has a video about the 4 main types of the narcissistic personality, and he fits the grandiose narcissist to T. And I've previously dated a covert narcissist as well, which threw me off because I kept thinking, well, he's not like this and he's not like that, but he's doing these other things. And that's how I found out there's different types. So it's easy to miss the warning signs. And by the time they show up, you're already trapped in that situation and it's hard to get out of.
Yeah. How long? So you had 2 relationships like that, correct?
Yes.
How long did it take? So, did you date them for a long time and they acted one way, and then after you got married, it shifted? Or how long did it?
Yeah. In the beginning, they have like this knight in shining armor charm to them. Like they'll charm everybody. So it's easy to get fooled and sucked in. They present themselves as very helpful, caring, think about others. But if you step back and notice, they also want the recognition for what they're doing. Like they have to be acknowledged for the nice things they're doing, and they'll constantly bring it back up saying, well, remember I helped you do this and I helped you do that, and yeah, I helped this community build this, or they're always bringing up their achievements because they want that recognition, which we all like recognition, but to constantly like search for it from others, like they have to have that validation. But yeah, and I want to say with my kid's father, I didn't notice until after my son was born, probably. So it was about a year into the relationship, but at the time I had no understanding of narcissism. But with the covert narcissist I dated, I saw the signs in the beginning, but because they play on that charm and it kind of works in a cycle, like they go back and forth between being very charming and then belittling you and bringing you down so they can, tighten their control on you. And it goes back and forth. So the moment you're like, hey, I don't want to put up with this anymore, I deserve better, then they lay on that charm again. I'm like, well, maybe it's just me. And that's where the gaslighting comes in, because you start to question your own sanity on it. So with the second one, I definitely knew in the beginning, but I ignored the signs until, I wouldn't say it was too late because I didn't marry him, so that helped, but we were living together. But it was still hard because even nobody wants to be alone, that's something I struggled with a long time was I just wanted to be loved. I wanted the family, but I didn't take
the perfect marriage, the perfect husband, the perfect father. Yeah.
And after the first one failing, here comes this charming, I love to help and do, help me, I'll rescue you and give you what you're wanting, they plan this perfect picture for you, and it's easy to fall for it, especially when you don't take the time to learn your own worth. Like I was still hurting from the first marriage. So finally.
So tell us about the first marriage, how you were in the first marriage for 5 years.
Yes.
What was the pivot point? So you were going through this narcissistic abuse, emotional, mental abuse. You were fighting for your own identity, questioning your own beliefs and your worth and your value. What was the snapping point? And what are some of the things? Can you share like 3 things that you had to deal with on an ongoing basis? And what was your snapping point to help you get out of that?
Sure. With him, I wasn't allowed to work. So I never had any of my own money. Even my own personal care needs, I would have to ask him for money for. He was Army and stationed in Germany. So he would lock the apartment when he'd go to work in the morning, and I'd be there till he came in. I never got to go anywhere unless he was with me. And for a while, because I was so young, I was 16 when I got married. Yeah, I was really young. My parents signed for it. I grew up really poor. So having this guy in the Army, be able to provide insurance, home, everything, I saw it as a way out and a way to have a better life, but it ended up not being better. I want to say the turning point for me with him was when he had gotten in trouble for hitting one of his NCOs and one of his sergeants. And the Army made him take anger management. So they knew that he had some issues. Well, one day, one of his chain of command had come by the house and they asked me if everything was all right, which of course I instantly became defensive and didn't want to bring any attention to it out of fear that it would upset him and then make things worse for me. So I was like, yeah, no, he's great to me, we're fine, there's nothing wrong, no, I'm good, but it got me thinking. I'm like, if they realize they should check on me, then maybe what's going on isn't right. He wouldn't let me get a job. I was considered his dependent because I was so young, so I had to have his permission to even work on base. But while I was over there, I turned 18, and then I was able to get a job without him stopping me. I worked at the PX, and the control and possessiveness didn't stop. Like, he would come to work and just stand there and watch me work. My supervisor had to tell him he had to leave. And even then, I'd look up and see him standing outside the glass doors just watching me work. And I knew that wasn't okay. You know, it
Yeah.
made me very uncomfortable. So I worked long enough to save up for a plane ticket, and I left. Um, he went through my luggage, told me I couldn't take anything he had bought for me. Um, yeah, it was not fun at all.
That must have been a very scary, very fearing moment.
It was.
Wow. And the strength that you had to be able to do that. And I can imagine your determination. 16 is it's such a vulnerable age. I mean, it's when we're, really identifying our, our emotions and expressing ourselves. And we all want so much for ourselves, our,
Right.
love and to feel valued and accepted. And yeah, and it's just those teen years going through all those changes and for someone to take advantage of that in such a way that must have really, obviously it impacted you for your whole entire adult life. How did you feel when you were on that plane and coming back to the States?
Uh, Honestly, it was very terrifying for multiple reasons. I moved over there before 9/11 happened, and 9/11 happened before I came back. So there was fear in itself of that. I have a fear of heights as well, so that didn't help. So it was a lot of strong emotions. I was having to go back to my family where I had tried to escape from in the first place. Um, my younger brother is a drug addict and bipolar and don't stay on his meds for it. So it's like constant eggshells around him. Um, and I didn't have, an education, a work history, nothing. While I was in Germany, I did get my GED, so I was able to get a factory job when I came back. But I was still around my family and their lifestyle, and um, I felt defeated. I felt like a failure, which my dad, he was my biggest support. And he told me, well, you made it longer than I did because his first marriage only lasted, I think, a year and a half. So I could tell myself I definitely tried. And I ended up actually going back to my first husband once after that, after we spent 2.5 years apart. And I got to thinking to myself, well, maybe I didn't try hard enough. Maybe I should have tried harder. Um, just had that doubt sink back in my head. And I went back, but I was only back for, I think, 6 months the second time. And ended up having my fourth miscarriage at that time. And my mom said something it was hurtful, but it helped me to leave and let go. Because she told me, like, don't you think that maybe God's letting you get pregnant, but taking him to tell you, hey, he wants you to have a baby, but not with this guy? And it hurt so bad at the time because I just had my fourth miscarriage, but it was also what I needed to hear because it, to me, you have four miscarriages by the same person. It's like, okay, you're just not meant to have kids. I believe in everything happens for a reason, even when we don't understand reasons. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's really hard to lose the children in that way. And that's devastating in itself too. And but looking back, and realizing you have three beautiful sons now,
yeah,
and the timing and all is that perfect, and you have four beautiful children in heaven who are rejoicing with the Lord. So that's a beautiful thing as well.
for sure.
And you'll meet them again someday. So something to rejoice and look forward to. So when you finally got away from this man, you stayed single for a while, I'm assuming, and then you met this other guy who did the same exact thing to you, and you had the three children. What was the pivot point for you to break away from that relationship?
Right. Well, it would have been smart to stay single for a while, but I was only away from my first husband, I think, a month when I met the knight in shining armor narcissist that I married. 6 months later, I was pregnant. Within 4.5 years, I had 3 kids. During that time, I knew that I should leave. By the time I had my second son, I knew I should go. The emotional abuse and mental abuse was already there. He was drinking daily, and I was terrified of being a single mom. I was convinced with no education, no work history, I couldn't do it. My father passed away in 2011. He was my biggest support. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And so in 2012, while still married to him, I enrolled in online college with the University of Phoenix. And I went to school with them for a year and a half because I told myself if I could just stick it out in the marriage long enough to get an education, something to support me and the kids when I left, that I'd be all right. I was trying to plan my leave even then. But he became even more abusive. Like, I remember one day him coming in and starting a fight. My kids were toddlers, preschoolers, and the classes were getting harder. So I was like, hey, I need to study for this exam. Could you please watch the kids? So I do it. And he told me that I was selfish for going to school, that I should be focusing on the kids and the house instead of spending time on schoolwork. So I eventually dropped out. I stayed 4 years after that. I became severely depressed. I'd get up long enough I was homeschooling my kids. I got up long enough to feed them breakfast, give them their schoolwork for the day, fix them lunch, and I'd go back to bed and lay in bed all day. At first, I didn't realize I was becoming depressed, but one day I had the desire to do things I enjoyed, like read a book or crochet, and I pulled the stuff out and I looked at it and I was just like, no, like I just felt and I pushed it aside, and I got to thinking, I was like, I love these things. These things bring me joy and passion, but I'm not feeling joy and passion. So that's when I decided something had to change. Like that Christmas, I had to borrow money just to buy my kids Christmas presents. I couldn't provide it at all because he wasn't working a full-time job. He was spending the money he had on alcohol and marijuana, and my kids deserve better, and if their dad wasn't going to give it to them, I would. So it took me 6 months to leave. I convinced him to use our taxes to move. We lived in North Carolina, and I had no family or friends there, even though I lived there for 11 years. I convinced him to move back to Dover, Tennessee, where I had some family at the time and family about an hour away. And we moved there, and within a month, I told him, I was like, I want a divorce. I applied for a job. The first thing I could get was just fast food. It wasn't enough to provide for us, but it was something. I had to walk to work to get there, but I kept pushing. And then eventually ended up in factory work, and then found Oola and got my life headed in a better direction, re-enrolled in school. So it's been full of challenges, but yeah, when I realized I couldn't even enjoy the things that I was passionate about, I was like, this has got to change, and if he won't, I will.
Yeah. So tell us about the Oola Life.
I would have never guessed that it would make the impact that it's made. I love personal development books or motivational speakers. I watch a lot of them on YouTube. But I had heard a woman through Young Living had told me about meeting the Oola guys, and last year after convention they had an ad on Facebook, and I was like, well, I'll just check this out and see what it is. And I got the discovery call and talked to a lady, and when she told me about herself, her own story related so much to my own. And through everything I've been through, the hardest part was feeling alone and like nobody would understand. And when I did try reaching out to some people, they're like, you're just negative, you're just, toxic, I can't be around you. And I felt very alone. So through everything I went through, I decided that if what I've been through can help even one person know that they're not alone, that there is hope, that they can live a better life, then it makes it all worth it, and I'd go through it again. And Oola's allowed me to do that. I have paid off almost $3,000 worth of credit card debt. I
Wow,
re-enrolled
that's
in school to finish my degree, which is one of my Oola goals. I've completed a 5K, which I thought I would never do. It was a bucket list item. Reconnecting with my kids. I've turned back to my faith, which I'd turned my back on after leaving my kid's father, because everything that happened, I was like, how's there a God if all these things have happened to me? But Oola has brought all that back to my life and then some. The amazing community of support. Like, I don't feel alone anymore. When I'm feeling down, I know that there's a handful of people just a message away to encourage and support me, and that's made all the difference.
Yeah, I love Oola.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long have you been a coach?
I got my certification April 27th after spending a year having to make little tiny payments, because being low income and a single mom, I couldn't afford the huge chunk all at once. But I made it a priority and worked towards it, and I got it in April.
Well, congrats and welcome and to the Oola Army. I love connecting with that's why you're here. We're connecting because we're both certified Oola Life coaches. And are you doing the 1B7 as well?
I am. I'm so excited. It's so close.
Oh, I know. Yeah. So it is fantastic. And just to help transform lives and to know that there is, balance and joy, and there is a way to live life differently. And congrats on getting that debt paid down, and soon it'll be gone. Soon there won't be any. And that's amazing. So thank you so much for sharing your journey. So what offer would you like to extend to our audience?
Well, I am a certified Oola Life coach and a founding ambassador to Oola Global. So ultimately, just if you're going through any of these things or know somebody that is, just reach out to me. Like, I'm always happy to talk and support. I want to encourage others that there is hope and they aren't alone. In just less than a year's time, I've made such a difference with Oola, and I'd like to help others transform their lives as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so you guys, if you need your Oola Life, there's no doubt. You just have to get out of your way and take on the Oola Life. The framework is amazing. There's 7 key areas. And let's see if I can get them right in order. There's fitness, finance, family, field, which is your career, faith, friends, and fun. You can take the Oola wheel assessment, see where you're at. If you think of life as a wheel, God's the hub, those spokes are the 7 F's. You take an assessment, scoring each one from 0 to 10, and then you get your overall score and you plot them on this wheel. If you're having a 10 in faith but a 3 in fun, your wheel's wobbling. So you need to connect with Callie about this Oola Life, this Oola Global. I call it 1B7. It's an amazing opportunity, either as an ambassador or as a member. And if you connect with her and her story, she has a beautiful journey, and you can tell she started off really low in this horrible situation, dealing with this narcissist and gaslighting, the mental and emotional health, and was able to transform in less than a year's time and have new beliefs and break through barriers. So thank you for sharing your story so much. I just really am honored that you shared on this platform.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, and for our audience, please reach out. Callie's information is in the description. And again, if you know anyone who can see value in connecting with her, please share the video with them. Just do it and get out of your own way and get your Oola Life.
Yes.